Ethiopian government security forces have reportedly rounded up and detained hundreds of ethnic Tigrayans in a crackdown on suspected supporters of the rebel Tigray People's Liberation Front. The crackdown comes as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken calls for all sides to pull back, stop the fighting, and bring a halt to what is happening on the ground. VOA senior diplomatic correspondent Cindy Sain reports.
The United Nations is seeking the release of several UN staff members and dozens of truck drivers who were contracted by the UN and other aid groups. It says Ethiopian authorities detained them in the week after the government declared a state of emergency.
The current numbers that I have is that at least 9 UN staff members are currently detained. We've continue to work and engage with the government to secure their release. They've also, we've also received reports that at least 70 people who've been contracted by the UN to drive trucks have also been detained.
The arrest of truck drivers are another blow to efforts by the UN and relief agencies to deliver urgently needed food, medical supplies, and fuel to millions of people in Ethiopia's northern Tigray region. The UN says no outside aid has reached the region since the Ethiopian military began airstrikes on the capital, Mekelle, on October 18th. Both the Ethiopian government and Tigray rebel leaders have accused the United States of backing the other side. But on Wednesday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken again called on all sides to pull back, stop the fighting, and let humanitarian aid get to those who so desperately need it.
And I do think there's an opportunity born of necessity, because the alternative of conflict that overtakes Ethiopia, spills out of the country into the region, should be sobering to everyone and to all concerned.
Asked why he still believes there is a window of opportunity for dialogue, Blinken had this to say.
We're in very close contact with former Nigerian President Obasanjo, who is leading the effort on behalf of the African Union to mediate the crisis in Ethiopia. And so hearing from him, as well as the engagement of our own special envoy, Jeff Feltman, I believe that all sides see the dangers of perpetuating the conflict.
Addis Ababa remains calm, but most Western countries have asked their citizens to leave and are discouraging any travel to Ethiopia amid the simmering conflict and frantic diplomatic efforts behind the scenes. Cindy Sain, VOA News.
The U.S. State Department says Secretary of State Antony Blinken is scheduled to travel to Africa next week on a 3-nation tour. Secretary Blinken is slated to visit Kenya, Nigeria, and Senegal. His first stop is Nairobi, where he will meet with Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta to discuss the COVID-19 pandemic and regional security issues, including the conflict in Ethiopia's Tigray region, Somalia, and Sudan. Blinken will travel next to Abuja to meet with Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari to discuss cooperation on global health security, expanding energy access, and revitalizing democracy. On his third stop, Blinken will visit Dakar and meet with Senegalese President Macky Sall to reaffirm the close partnership between the U.S. and Senegal. Sudanese Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan is officially the head of a new transitional council after being sworn in on Thursday. Al-Burhan appointed the council to lead the country following the military takeover late last month. He has repeatedly shrugged off domestic and international pressure to reverse the coup. The new 14-member sovereign council, for which one member is yet to be confirmed, includes civilians representing Sudan's regions, but none from the Forces of Freedom and Change political coalition that had been sharing power with the military in a democratic transition since 2019. Burhan's deputy will remain Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, commander of the powerful paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, with both men keeping roles they held before the coup. The United Nations spokesman, Stéphane Dujarric, says Secretary General Antonio Guterres wants to see a return to the transition leadership as quickly as possible. Dujarric again called for the release of Prime Minister Abdel Fattah and other political leaders.
We're obviously taking a look at these developments. I would say they're very concerning. We want to see a return to the transition as quickly as possible. We want to see the release from house arrest of Prime Minister Hamdok, as well as all other politicians and leaders that have been detained.
Sudan's main civilian coalition says it wants a return to pre-coup conditions following last month's military takeover. David Doyle has more.
Sudan's main civilian political coalition has rejected any talks with the military in its first press conference since last month's coup. Al-Watik El-Barer is spokesperson for the Forces of Freedom and Change, which signed a power-sharing agreement with the military in 2019. He said on Wednesday that the coalition supports Prime Minister Abdel Hamdok, currently under house arrest, in calling for a return to pre-coup conditions.
We stress that we will not meet with the military. Our position is unequivocally clear. There will be no negotiations and no compromise with the undertakers of the coup. And we commend the firm position of the Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok.
A top military official has said the coup, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, was to preserve security and stability and correct the course of the People's Revolution, which overthrew longtime leader Omar al-Bashir. Burhan has said he is committed to a democratic transition and elections in July 2023. But he's under international pressure to reverse his actions, and the UN Security Council is meeting over the situation. Several civilian politicians and officials were arrested following the coup. El-Barer said the coalition rejects and condemns the pressures being placed on those who have been detained, and that their lives are being endangered. The FFC also said it supports calls by resistance committees for marches of millions on November the 13th and 17th, under the slogan, "No negotiations, no partnerships, no legitimacy." Despite struggling under an internet blackout, those committees brought out hundreds of thousands in anti-military protests on October the 30th. And have threatened a campaign of general strikes and civil disobedience.
David Doyle of Reuters filed that report. Authorities in Ghana are trying to save an endangered monkey species from extinction. Officials say human activities are destroying habitats of white-napped Mangabe monkeys that only live in few parts of West Africa. Victoria Munga has the details from Accra.
At the Accra Zoo in Ghana, a worker is feeding some of the few remaining white-napped Mangabe monkeys. 18 of these monkeys found their homes in this zoo after their habitat in the wild was destroyed. Authorities say human activities such as deforestation and mining are significantly reducing the number of these specific species in Ghana.
The environment or the habitat of animals we have are affected by human activities. That is just an example. Other attributes could be there. And so sometimes it forces the animals to lose some of their habitats.
Wildlife Vets International, a charity organization providing veterinary support to international wildlife, found that by the end of October 2020, there were only an estimated 1,000 white-napped Mangabe monkeys in the wild globally. Activists are pushing for the United Nations to adopt animal welfare as one of its focal activities. In the same manner, the world body focuses on protecting human rights and maintaining international peace and security. The goal, advocates say, is to enforce protection of endangered animals, especially in parts of Africa where animals are treated poorly.
In this part of West Africa, animals are not actually regarded as living beings. People mistreat them. So with our education now in the schools and in the communities, where animal welfare is gaining grounds, and people are beginning to respect animals, cruelty is now on the low side.
Meir Zieka, a veterinarian of Ghana's Forestry Commission, tells VOA that partners are helping the state in breeding the endangered monkeys and then releasing them to the wild.
The NGO, together with us, is actually also doing community sensitization and looking for alternative livelihoods for the community members who were into hunting and some of these anthropogenic activities that affect these primates that naturally occur there. So that when these animals are released, the community feels part of the whole project. They have other things to do for their livelihoods, so they don't go back too much into hunting to deplete further the populations of these animals.
The white-napped Mangabe monkeys were once widespread in Ghana, Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso, but they are now found increasingly in isolated pockets of the forests. Ghanaian authorities hope the recovery efforts will help increasing their numbers in the near future. Victoria Amunga for VOA News, Accra, Ghana.
Cybersecurity specialists say there are thousands of social media accounts offering fake vaccination cards and promising to add vaccination records into electronic databases. Licia Bakaletz has this story narrated by Anna Rice.
Most vaccinated Americans prove they've been vaccinated by carrying a small piece of paper filled in by hand. It contains a person's full name, date of birth, type of the vaccine, number of doses, and the batch number. It was designed to inform, not protect against fraud, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
The card itself was meant to be a communication device between a provider and a patient, that they were vaccinated, and even a reminder to show, if applicable, a second dose needed to be administered within a time period.
But this paper is still widely used as proof of vaccination in America today. As more companies request proof of vaccination, officials say more fake cards are being used.
We've seen it go from early in 2021 from maybe receiving 5 to 6 complaints per day to now we're receiving maybe 20 to 25 complaints per day through our hotline of fake vaccination card complaints.
Cybersecurity experts say sites offering fake vaccine cards have moved from mostly the darknet to more widely used sites on the internet.
It's pretty bad. They're using Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, and WhatsApp to market and promote these cards.
In certain online groups, fake vaccination cards are being offered quite openly, and happy clients even publish their pictures with fakes. Experts from the Coalition for a Safer Web even tried it themselves. Fraudsters respond quickly and guarantee delivery throughout the U.S. Experts at Checkpoint Software Technologies say sales picked up dramatically after a federal government vaccine mandate for federal workers.
The number of sellers of fake vaccine cards was increased by approximately tenfold. So we saw about 1,000 sellers in August. September, after the announcement, it was spiking to 10,000.
Specialists at Checkpoint Software Technologies say one possible solution is to develop a unified federal vaccination database and digital cards that verify vaccination status, something some European countries are already doing. For Licia Bakaletz in Washington, Anna Rice, VOA News.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, a taste of Swahili cuisine in the heart of Washington, D.C. And a rising music star aims to boost girls' education in Cameroon. Stay with us. The Swahili Village, an African restaurant, has opened in the heart of the U.S. Capitol. Kevin Onyona is its founder and chef. Onyona, who hails from Kenya, wants to build a cultural bridge between Africa and the world through food and opportunities. VOA's Blanche Sanu has the story.
No time to waste. Chef Kevin Onyona is busy. His restaurant will host at least 100 people tonight to mark the opening of the second establishment in Washington, D.C. On the menu, jollof rice, goat meat, suya or fish with a unique taste that only Chef Kevin Onyona has the secret.
The base of our cuisine is around the Swahili-speaking nations, groups. So we are formed by trade. There's a lot of traditional approach to both dining and experiences.
Located in Washington, D.C.'s Embassy District, the Swahili Village, with its 50-seat space, is ready to host events focused on Africa and its diaspora. From now on, the restaurant wants to position itself as a central meeting place for Africans and African diplomats in the region.
DC is the capital of the world, really, and it was a shame that up until now we didn't have representation of this nature and of this quality. And plus, here's where we host institutions like the World Bank, institutions like the IMF, you know, the White House is down the street, State Department. It was just natural that it's time for us to be able to bring our presence here in DC.
Apart from its gastronomic experience, Swahili Village wants to offer in each location a landmark for the diaspora community in search of African culture and history. South Sudanese Ambassador Philip Jaranatana was among the guests.
To me, this is just closer to home, you know, the food, type of cuisines that they have, whether it's fish or goat stew, that's almost home. So when I have guests here and I have people that I want to take and I'm not taking them home, just something that is closer to my house, this is what I bring them.
Togo's ambassador in Washington, Frederick Edem Ebwe, did not miss his appointment at the Swahili Village.
We are deeply satisfied and amazed by the initiative launched by an African. This restaurant will create a link between the United States and Africa, but also a melting pot for Americans and Africans in the diaspora. We African diplomats in Washington, D.C. are proud.
Portia Sin, an American customer, is happy to finally rediscover the African flavor she experienced through her travel on the continent.
The opening of Swahili Village, what a thrill. I want everyone to know that this is the place, if you want to have a phenomenal dinner of African culture from Kenya, this is the place to come.
Kevin Onyona, a Kenyan entrepreneur who has lived in the United States for years, has achieved the mastery of African culinary art. He continues to push the boundaries with the intention of creating 50 restaurants across the United States.
That was a VOA's Blanche Sanu reporting. A documentary about the impact of climate change in Africa is a highlight of this year's annual French Film Festival in Los Angeles. The festival, called City of Light, City of Angels, or Colcoa, attracts filmmakers from Paris and fans from across Los Angeles. VOA's Mike O'Sullivan reports on the documentary Marché Salou, which is also causing a buzz.
A Los Angeles gathering of French actors and filmmakers, along with Americans who love international film. Among the annual French Film Festival's offerings this year, a story of survival amid climate change in the Azawak Valley in northwestern Niger.
And the children most specifically have to do 10 kilometers back and forth several times a day to go get water for the whole village.
Taking time away from schooling. Filmed over the course of a year, the French filmmakers returned to the village 5 times.
And we're supposed to go 6 times, but then COVID hit and everything was locked down. So we had to cancel this last visit.
The film marks the directorial debut of Aïssa Maïga, a French actress who was born in Senegal. She and the filmmakers worked with the nonprofit group Aman Iman, whose name means water is life in the region's language. Chronicling the struggle to have a well dug in the village, it's a story now playing out in many other communities.
It's really about the emotion of the people there, their life, and through emotion we think we can actually access a change of awareness.
Along with raising that awareness, the filmmakers urge viewers to support the expansion of the network of village wells. The festival offers exposure and possible distribution deals for French films and television shows, which have a new audience because of streaming platforms.
Like Netflix and Amazon, of course, that they're able actually to create an audience for foreign programs. It's not only French film or European film, as you know, it's also Asian. And it's really a big change in the American culture.
As film becomes globalized, he says, it is increasingly addressing global problems. Mike O'Sullivan, VOA News, Los Angeles.
Our entertainment report this week takes us to Cameroon. Ethnomusicologist and host of VOA's Music Time in Africa radio broadcast, Heather Maxwell, presents a music video that has launched a rising star. The song makes a strong and entertaining case for improving girls' education and literacy in the country.
I have got the best music video for you from Cameroon. It is called Tu es mon ventilateur, and it's by Aïcha Fadila. Now, this video caught my attention a few months back. I really loved it then. It dropped in February of 2021, but in recent months, it has blown up on YouTube, on TikTok, and has launched this singer's career. The title translates in English as "You Are My Fan," and Aïcha is using fan as a metaphor for the man of her dreams that she meets on WhatsApp. And as you know, a fan in the Sahel is really loved. The video is amazing because it addresses a serious socio-cultural issue, but also is a visually beautiful video. It's really funny, and the music and the singing are all just on point. The issue is the low literacy rate among Cameroonian youths, and especially among women. And so throughout the whole clip, Aïcha is recounting her experiences as an illiterate woman in the city, trying to make it work without knowing how to read. And she keeps making all of these mistakes, and they're really funny, but serious at the same time. She doesn't know how to cross the street because of the traffic. She goes into the men's restroom when she's supposed to go, obviously, into the women's, but she can't read the signs. She gets mixed up trying to buy a cell phone. She finally does get on WhatsApp, and that's where she meets the man of her dreams, her fan. And there is where she makes the biggest mistake of all, because he lives abroad, and he tells her that he wants her to buy a passport so she can join him. So he sends her a lot of money and says, buy your passport. And she hears passport as pastèque, which is a French word meaning watermelon. So she uses all her money to buy a lot of watermelon, and she passes out watermelon to everyone she can find. So the play on words, the great acting, the awesome music, and the deeper, important socio-cultural message that to be a stronger country, Cameroonians need to better educate their youth, and especially their women. This all resonates with people on so many levels, and especially in the French-speaking world, and also especially among the Sahelian people. And finally, it really resonates with people who speak Ful or Fulani, because that is the language she speaks. And so the Fulani also are really responding to this on YouTube and on TikTok. Fans around the world are reenacting Aisha's story on TikTok, often with the male lead too. So in addition to the big success on YouTube and TikTok, Aisha's music video also won a nomination this year at the prestigious Canal d'Or Awards that take place in Yaoundé for Best Folkloric Music Artist. So congratulations, Aisha, and can't wait to see more music videos from you. Hope you like that, guys. See you next time.
That's so nice, Aisha. Thank you, Heather. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.